Hey guys, welcome back once again. Today I have a highly requested tutorial in store for you guys just in time for Halloween. So if you haven't guessed already what tutorial this is, it is of course my gills that I wear for these looks that I will showcase around here. So there is the Space Mermaid from this Halloween and the Mermaid from my NYX entry from last year. Now these are just a gelatin prosthetic. Now in the original cast, I did not make it as gills. I made it as a split, I'm not sure if it was a split in like a throat or if it was just a cut or what it was, but I just tweaked that prosthetic and made it into gills. But today I will show you how to make an actual gills prosthetic instead of makeshifting them like I do for those two looks. Now in the original prosthetic, I did sculpt it out of clay and cast it in silicone, but to make it easier for you guys, I will just be casting it in plaster just because it's more readily available and it's a lot cheaper than silicone. But if you do have a silicone at home and you do want to cast this in silicone, by all means, go for it. So to make these gills, you will want special effects gelatin. If you do not have that on hand, it is equal parts water, gelatin, glycerin, powdered gelatin that is. I do have a whole video that goes over the entire situation that I will leave linked down below for you guys. You will want some sculpting clay. Any clay that does not dry is pretty much all that you want. So any oil-based clay will not set and will not ruin your cast. So whether that be monster clay, which is highly expensive and not what I expect you to use, just an oil-based clay, or if it is a more, what's the term that I'm thinking of? Plasticine. You can use plasticine, especially if you are going to cast it in plaster. If you are using silicone, you do need to check whether or not the clay does have sulfurs and stuff in it that will not allow the silicone to set. I do believe that plasticine does contain some of these sulfurs, sulfites. Oh, let me know down below if you know what I'm talking about, because I'm not quite sure if I do. But I do know that the first time that I cast in silicone, I demolded and it was still tacky, and I was really confused because I was like, it's set, it's completely set, but around the edge where I had a plasticine border and the actual thing that I sculpted on the inside, it was still slightly tacky, so it was just very confusing for me. So I did a little bit of research and found that some plasticines contain, I'm gonna say sulfites, but I'm going out on a limb here. I could be completely wrong. If you were curious as to what I do have on my eyes as well, this was all created with the Colourpop Give It To Me Straight palette. The lips are two of the NYX liquid lingerie, lip lingerie, something like that. So for the gills, I really like to kind of keep them natural looking. I know that's weird to say because they're gills and naturally we don't have them on us, but I like the edges not to be sharp. I like them to be quite soft and lumpy and bumpy and kind of make them look like they would form naturally and aren't carved, if that makes any sense at all. And then once you are happy with the shape, I'm just going ahead and Vaselining it just to try and smooth it out. I do find Vaseline works best with plasticine. I'm then just going ahead and smoothing out the entire gill prosthetic. You could, if you wanted to, add some skin texture with a stippling sponge. However, I like the gills to look quite plasticky. That's just the way that I like it. If you look at fish, they don't really have textures on them. It's not like fish has skin texture anyway. But as you can see here, they're all kind of the same height. They're just set back. And there's just my hand for size reference. Then once you are happy with the sculpt, it's time to put a little bit of flashing around the edge. This is just a nice barrier to make it easier to peel the appliance off later, give you a nice smooth edge. Then go around with plasticine and build out walls. You want it to be, I'm going to say, 1/2 inch to 1 inch higher than it needs to be, just in case there is some low points that you didn't see when building the wall around this. So once you do pour the plaster in, you don't have to fiddle around with building the walls any higher because that is a nightmare to do. Once you are happy with it, if you are doing this on any other surface, I would recommend Vaselining it just so the plaster doesn't stick. But if it's not going to stick, just go ahead and pour the plaster over. It is only a very small amount and it probably took half an hour to an hour to completely set. Then once it is set, just go ahead and take all of the clay out of the mold, just taking your time not to dint or scratch the actual mold as it will transfer to the main prosthetic if there is a dint in it. Then once you are completely cleaned out, just give it a little bit of a brush off and then pour some special effects gelatin in. I use a nice flat cake spatula to scrape off the excess gelatin. I go run it over a couple of times. You don't want to fiddle too much because gelatin does set reasonably fast though. So try your hardest to not fiddle with it. I know that's not the easiest thing. Sometimes you will have to do several runs of the prosthetic to get the one that you are happy with. And then once it is set, I like to powder it first and then slowly work away the edges with a little bit of powder on a small brush. And then just slowly, slowly, slowly. It is a very long process. It probably takes 5 to 10 minutes to completely get this undone, which you really do want to take your time because if you do tear it, you will be able to see it on the prosthetic when you do go to apply it. So really do take your time with this, guys. This is probably one of the most important steps. And voila, there you go. That is a gill. Now you can make as many gills as you'd like. Put them everywhere. Stick them on your arm. Stick them on your neck. Put them on some other people. Do what you want. So there we have it, guys. That is the finished prosthetic. If you did want to see what it looks like once it is applied, I will pop in the clips just here for you to see. Now, my original prosthetic was just a single one, but I found that I was stacking 3 on top of each other. So I mean, you could put as many or as little of those gills as you would like. If you wanted to just do 1, so you could build it up to have 3 on one side and 4 on the other, you can do that. 3 was just the choice that I went with. Now these do not have to go on your neck. That is just where I have been more inclined to put them. You could of course stick it on your face. The only downside is the size of it here. So take that into consideration when you are making this, where you want to put it. So the size will vary on where you want to actually stick it. If you are wanting something for just your face, of course, you probably want something half this size. Unless you're just wanting to go straight up forehead, then it might actually work. But again, it's not restricted to your face. They could look really cool on the shoulder or on your arm, legs, torso, bum, wherever you want to put them. So I did speed make this. I mean, I feel like from actual sculpting to getting this prosthetic in my hand, it might have been an hour and a half. I usually leave the plaster to completely set overnight before demolding it. You can of course demold it once the plaster is cool. That is the recommended kind of thing. When it's not kind of wet and hot to touch, you can demold it. However, I like to let it fully cool, fully let it do its thing. Even once I do take the clay out of it, I do like to let it air for a little bit, just because the actual inside of the plaster hasn't seen the air, hasn't felt the air, hasn't dried out that little bit. So all in all, I'd usually like to take a full day kind of to do it, but I didn't have a full day to sit here. And that is just showing that you can do this pretty fast. If you guys do recreate these gills and use them in one of your looks, please tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see all of your creations this Halloween. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. If you did find it helpful and you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button wherever it may be hiding. And I will see you tomorrow for the very last video for October. How crazy is that? It has been 31 days tomorrow. The fact that I've even pumped out this many tutorials so far is astounding to me. I struggled to do 1 a week consistently for a very long period of time. So the fact that I've managed to get all of these out is a shock to me. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.